Welcome everyone, today we have a very exciting Diablo 4 Barbarian build. Now looking behind me, I just want to show you guys a demonstration. That is a world boss at level 100. And took me 3 slams to kill the world boss. Yes, the build is very powerful. I just want to demonstrate to you guys that yes, we can be killing the boss. That's 81 million, that's 109 million, and the last one did about 40 something million. Yeah, within 3 hits we killed the world boss. And I want to show you guys that this build is a great boss slaying. This build is great for tier 100. This build does everything and it's super broken on the barbarians. So coming over to my replay for the tier 100 dungeon, and this is a level 100 barbarian. Yes, I've gotten my barbarian to level 100, and something you want to notice is that I can pretty much keep my berserk up almost 100% of the time. And my cooldowns, my ultimate is getting extremely lower as I dash into enemies. You might be wondering why. I'll show you guys the gears very soon, because we're using as many unique items as we can. We're also using the flicker step, which allows us to lower our cooldowns, get almost non-stop berserk. We have so many ways of getting berserk. Let's skip a little bit. We don't need to see the conduct over here. So the ability of us to reducing the cooldowns, getting tons of fury, and just deals, massive 20, 30, 50 million damage wide everywhere we go. And this Barbarian is crazy. Yeah, I never had such a good time with Barbarian because I always have non-stop fury, non-stop, berserk, and everything just melts in front of me. So we did not see a boss in this dungeon. That's why I went to the world boss to show you guys the powers of this Barbarian. Usually I can 1 or 2 shot any of the boss in the game. Even Doriel, if I quit 2 times with 100 million quits, it will disappear. And yeah, the build is very fun. And I'm having a lot of good time testing out different builds, and you can see that I'm not using the traditional setup for Barbarians, which right now is very popular, to go with the bash to have more overpower, which I explained to you guys with a lot of variations, because we're constantly getting more berserk with Lump Strike, and we're getting more berserk by bleeding enemies. So there's a lot of nice things about this build. Now I have updated this build onto my Mobility builder over here, and definitely check it out because you'll be using different skills, different combinations, and tons of unique items, which gives you tons of power. Now if we come over to my character over here, yeah, my friends were just clearing out the dungeon while I was recording. So if you come over to my character, let's firstly have a look at the unique items of choice and the reasons behind it. We're getting tons of berserk, and the mighty helmet over here will give us, way more powers to gain damage, to gain cooldowns, and gain fury, and it's great for our berserk build. So that's why I'm going with this helmet. I might say this could even be better than the shackle, but I haven't gotten a shackle on my barbarians. Now we're going with pants, which allows us to gain more damage while becoming unstoppable, which is great to gain the 50 fury as you dash into enemies. We're using the Overpower Amulet as usual with Barbarians, which deals tons of damage with multiple ways of getting overpower. And finally, we're using the Flicker Step. The Flicker Step allows us to lower the cooldowns of our ultimate, deals way more damage with our ultimate, and also have close damage reduction. The movement speed is really good. Initially I didn't go for these boots because I wanted the boots that provided me with more movement speed were unstoppable. But when I realized that attacking reduced the cooldown of your dash, and I was evading a lot, and I was dashing non-stop into enemies. I actually didn't like the boots that gives me 4 dashes, because I was dashing too much and too wasteful. These particular boots, together with the dash ability, will allow me to lower cooldown of my ultimate as I dash into enemies, and this can constantly give us pretty much non-stop berserk. And the damage reduction, everything is great about these boots, and I really start to like these boots for my Barbarian. Now finally, you can see some uber unique items with me in my Barbarian, and you don't have to go with uber uniques. If you don't have uber uniques and you have 2 maces, this works wonderfully if you go back to the bash build, or you can still use a Lump Strike build with any of the axes. I'm currently using more axes, and if I do get my grandfather, I'll use my grandfather over the axes over here. So you can go with 3 axes as well, and the Lump Strike build works with 3 axes. So the traditional build for this type of Barbarian is that you want to max out your overpower, and that's why people are going with bashes. But if I can constantly have myself in the berserk mode and gain tons of damage while in berserk, this is much more beneficial. We move so much faster. Lump Strike is just a great mobility utility spell and just gives us so many things. The berserk is great, the ability to poke more berserk with a helmet is great, and it's so much more mobility compared to bash. Now on the chance that you guys don't have any of the uber uniques, you can go with 2 axes and 1 two-handed axe, or you can go with 2 maces and 1 two-hand mace. You can still go back to bash against the boss, but as you saw with the world boss, I didn't really need a bash. And yes, if you do have the Doombringer, you can be going with the overpowerful swapping weapons. And I just show you guys over here, you can see that currently I'm using a 2-handed axe for my launch strike and also the 2-handed mace. This allows me to swap weapons non-stop. Now everything else with the Barbarian is pretty straightforward. For most of the gears, you do want to have berserk damage and also overpower damage together with our stats. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this one on my mace, and some of my rings are a little out of date. You can see they still have physical damage. You want critical chance, you want berserk damage, you want a little bit of resource generation. And finally, you can go for maximum HP, or you can go for overpower damage for more damage. Now, because most of the stats were very similar to my previous Barbarians when I was level 80, level 90, we don't have to go through things into too much detail. And if you come over to Metacritics, you can see the updated, the gears and so stats for this endgame level 100 Barbarian. Now, briefly going through my skill tree. So yes, we're going with Long Strike and providing us with more critical or more berserk as with critical. Now everything else is pretty straightforward. We are getting more defensiveness for tier 100, but if you find yourself very powerful, you don't have to go for those, you can go for something more damage. So here I went with additional HP and also damage reduction. I am going with 3 points into healing over here and just 1 point into damage reduction. I used to have the damage against injured enemies, but then I realized no one was getting injured. I was one-shotting them with axes, so I took away the damage against injured enemies. Now, because I don't have the Grandfather, I decided to not go with heavy-handed because we're not benefiting that much from critical damage. So I took away 3 points over here and put 3 points over here just to be tanky. But if you guys want more damage, just perk into 3 points over here, then you deal way more damage with critical chances and also critical strike. Now the Paragon is very similar to my previous build as well. I have made some adjustments, which is mostly targeted over here. I realized I was able to enjoy the additional damage while berserking, so this gives me 20%, 5%, 5%, so that's a 30% damage while berserking. And the multiplier over here gives me up to at least 54%. Now if I was using a 2-handed mace with damage while berserking, and also a proper mace with damage while berserking over the core skill damage, I can get even more damage while berserking. But we deal enough damage. I think over 100 million we're fine with the damage. Now in terms of my vampiric powers, they have not changed compared to before. We have a chance to proc a 20% lucky hit chance to increase attack speed by 50%. We'll be able to dash into enemies and get unstoppable, very important for the pins. Here we'll be doing overpower damage every 20 seconds, very good. And here we'll be doing more damage against vulnerable enemies. And finally we have the ways of getting fortified, and fortified give us more critical chance. Now together, if you have a look at my critical chance, I am sitting on about 48% critical chance. With all the buffs, we can easily go to 60 plus critical chance. Now you do notice my resistance are not high. This is compensated by the amount of HP we have and also amount of armor we have, which is quite nice for this build. Now one thing I do want to highlight with this build is that I'm using expertise in terms of the 2-handed sword. I just need rank 1 of this particular expertise. I don't need the additional damage from bleeding, but rather I just want the chance or ability to make enemy bleed. Once they are bleeding, I have the chance of getting more berserk coming from my legendary node over here. It is not the highest chance, guys, it's 10%, but you do get berserk for another 5 seconds because of this. So while fighting the Nightmare dungeons, what I'm doing is I'm setting my 2-handed sword as my expertise. And this what allows me to bleed enemies. This gives me a consistent way of bleeding enemies. But against the boss, of course guys, you don't have to go for this. So against the boss, I will be using that 2-hand expertise to do more vulnerable damage and also to have the ability to have the critical strike against vulnerable enemies. So just show you guys over here, before the world boss started, I went to expertise. I am changing from my 2-handed sword into the axes, because previously I was in the dungeon, I wanted to have more procs to berserk. But against the boss, we just want to do more damage, right? And yep, it's pretty straightforward. We might as well go into the, we might as well go into the skill rotations here. So first of all, usually before the boss starts, I'm actually going to spend some fury to get myself into maximum 300 fury. This is because you can see the numbers over here, 280, and here we go to 300. This is because with the amulet, if you get yourself to 300 fury, your first hit will guarantee the critical strike, and this hits a lot harder. Now if you can swap your weapons and gain as a 50% more damage with overpower, but that's not needed. Usually I just spend the 300 fury. So this way when the boss comes out, we already have a number of ways to critical strike and also overpower, or mostly overpower. So if your critical chance is high enough, you'll be doing overpower hits with critical strike, and this have numbers of ways. You have your glyphs to do critical strike chance, impactive power to do that, and also the 300 fury spin. So the moment you see the boss, or moment you see the monster, you want to top up with your fury. So Berserk and also I think this is the damage shot, I forgot. It's a war cry. So war cry plus berserk will give you bonus damage and also more berserk. And ways of getting more berserk means more damage. Once you have those buffs activated, you can start smacking away. Make sure you top up yourself with additional fury after spending your fury. So my first hit, I did 81 million. Now my fury is low, right? I'm gonna spend my shots and I'm gonna dash around. And this allows me to gain back my fury quickly, do the next smash, which is over 100 million. You want to be smacking when you have maximum fury, even beyond maximum fury for the additional benefit. So the ability to have beyond maximum fury means you're doing 60% more damage with your core spells. So you want to be beyond maximum fury, and usually you can see the 60 over here means you're doing 60% more damage with your core spells. And finally, once you top up your fury, you can then smack away for the final hit. So usually nothing really stands in front of you over 3 hits, and the ability to dash around is extremely powerful. Now if I come over to the gameplay of the tier 100 Nightmare Dungeon, you can see that I'll constantly be trying to dash into enemies, for both restoration of maximum resource and also to lower my ultimate cooldowns. Oh yes, I did want to mention this. I have only died once during this entire test runs and during most of the dungeons. So what you want to notice is most of our damage reduction came from Berserk. So if you find yourself without cooldowns, without Berserk, and that is your weakest moment, and sometimes you can be one-shotted even having over 20,000 HP. But most of the time you'll have Berserk, you'll have no problem to that. I was a little shocked I died here, because in my most test runs I never died. But yes, you want to keep Berserk up, and you want to keep at least one active shot available to reduce enemies' damage and also to give yourself more durability. Most of the time, you'll be fine. Just dash around and make sure you have the maximum fury management. What I mean by that is, you want to have at least one shot going, you want to have Berserk going, and as long as you're hitting at maximum fury, everything melts. Now if you get careless and do too much Hammer of Ancient, what's going to happen is you'll be short of fury. So having the shots available, having your dashes means a lot for this build. It takes a little bit to get used to it, and you can see here I'm trying to manage my fury. And if you don't manage it correctly, you won't be doing that much damage. But even at half fury, you still does tons of damage. So it takes 1 or 2 rounds to get used to it, but the build is actually really easy. And if you guys haven't tried this one for the Barbarians, or if you got any of your Uber items, you can make this Barbarian even stronger. So my final build will be consist of the Doombringer, the Grandfather, the Shackle, and maybe the Starless Ring. I didn't use my Starless Ring over here because I actually prefer the cooldown reduction. So next time we'll try to make up more Uber Uniques for the build. But here I want to keep as minimum as I can with the Uber Uniques. I still use this sword because I didn't have a better axe, but I don't need the sword, it still works perfectly. Now before we go to the replays, I do want to provide you guys with a tier 100 round replay and also against the world boss how you rotate your spells to the replay. So before we go to the replays, I'll be updating the notes over here because those were the older build notes. I'll be updating the notes over here to give you guys more rotation and also to give you guys the replacement. Let's say which of the aspects you can be replacing if you get your Uber Uniques, like the one-hand sword, the two-hand sword, and also the helmet for your shackle.
Look. have made a grave mistake this day.
But if you guys haven't subscribed, it is a really good time to do so, because I'll be covering tons of Diablo 4 related topics and also videos and also guides. We'll be looking to the top meta builds, non-meta builds, leveling up, and also Paragon tricks. We're also looking to the latest events and also official updates, and also changes to different characters and also different builds in the game. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn the notification on, because a lot of you who are watching the videos have not subscribed. You can see 80% of the viewers who are watching our videos have not subscribed, so make sure you subscribe to stay tuned for the latest update for Diablo 4.